It seems its only function is destruction.
You can see it, Maharaga!
Hello everyone, and welcome to my world. My name is Mr. Unoriginality, you guys can call me Nori, and welcome to the channel. So I know we just met, but weird question, do you guys have phases of watching different content creators? Like you'll watch someone for a while and then for some reason you just stop, only to then of course come back to them at a later date and suddenly they have you hook, line, and sinker all over again? Yeah. Hi June. So, for those who don't know, somehow if you've stumbled on this video before watching any of June's, they are currently running a story called PRISM. And genuinely, each new installment is pretty much one of my most anticipated creative projects on this website. And in such a short amount of time, June has wormed PRISM back into my brain when one day I decided to watch one of their VODs and saw two characters I didn't remember.
Who are you people?
We're here now. So join me as I rant for the next however many minutes about this absolute demon I devised, as well as this absolutely insane story. But first, we need... Sorry to stop you before the video even really gets going, but I know this is a terrible, terrible first impression for our first video, but the date is currently July 31st, and June has just posted a video telling us what medium PRISM is going to be in. And that's a video game, which is nuts. Like, can you imagine? Like, what a time to be alive, bro. Like, I've only bought the art book and watched the YouTube videos, but to see PRISM evolve from Tokyo Mew Mew ripoffs to now we're getting an actual full-on game is crazy. June and their team deserve all of the credit, all the love, and apparently all of the money too. Apparently merch sales have been going crazy. But just... it's insane, and I want to wish them the best, and if any of them ever see this video, I know you guys are going to do fantastic. So just ball out. We will play literally anything. The unfortunate part, though, and why I've stopped the video here, is because the video will not line up. I'm going to talk about Colby and Stalker, who you'll meet later, as characters in a TV show, because that's what I interpreted this story was going to be initially. And maybe it was, but I don't know. So I'm going to mention things like seasons and plot lines and stuff, and just... I know... I probably should just deconstruct this whole video and do it again. But dog, this thing took me way too long. I'm just about to start editing. I don't want to redo all this effort all over again. I've drawn the art, I've written, I've recorded. I'm dipping my toe in the water. I don't want to deconstruct a good thing. So I'm sorry, you can call me lazy, you can call me stupid in the comments. I understand, I deserve it. But you're just going to have to deal with me. Although, what this does promise is a future video where when we learn more about the game, maybe its mechanics, I get to revisit and then fix it. Attune it to the medium, you could say. So that is guaranteed content coming in the future at some point. But sorry for keeping you for so long. Sorry that this whole video is out of whack now. June, you guys are going to do great. And please enjoy the show. I guess for formality's sake, I should tell you guys what this story is about. If you somehow haven't seen a single video from the playlist bordering on 5 million views at the time of writing this, that is. But before I do, keep in mind I'm mainly going off of what June has posted on YouTube. I'm not a part of their Patreon, so if I miss some info that's on there, please don't skewer me. But essentially, PRISM takes place on a modern fantasy Earth, or Firth, as they called it. There's magic, mystical creatures, gods, whole 9 yards of that good old YA fantasy. Where we are, the character's city, state, whatever, area is trapped by a dome, sealing them inside. The dome is made of radiance, this story's magic system, and what basically boils down to as insanely advanced light manipulation. Meaning the dome is basically... This also had the secondary effect of sealing some monsters inside as well. The main one being the Absence, a hive mind sort of series of void-like shadows that want to consume everything. So we're not exactly dealing with the lap of luxury here, but As a resurrected beyond watchability movie series likes to say, life finds a way. A single man rose to meet the new challenges facing his community, Apollo, who we will get to. This whole video cannot be about you. But Apollo is a bona fide mad scientist who provided his community with both light in the form of an artificial sun. Yes, you heard that right, an artificial sun, and a way to defend themselves. Prisms. Little magical psychics who use radiance to transform their wielders into magical fighters. Because yes, PRISM is a magical girl series. And if this premise alone isn't sick as hell to you, this video is gonna suck, so lock the fuck in. Apollo gives out prisms to people he trusts, and they act as the defenders of the innocent while they try to figure out a way outside the dome. And immediately anyone who has seen the videos knows I left out a whole lot. So please go watch those because I'll be casually mentioning information from them. So, spoiler warning, I guess. Link in the description. What? Huh? I just said, wait. Look at this guy. The fucking nerve of the scoliosis shrimp posture prick to have the entire part of the video dedicated to him. The fucking audacity. But I guess it's not without good reason. Apollo is basically the center of this universe. And not only because he's June's favorite character. He's got his thumb in too many pies for my liking, whether that be his family, or the fact that he had kids with a Radiance deity, we'll get to that, his role as a community leader, or all the secrets he hasn't told anyone. Apollo to me is standing on a house of cards that is going to very quickly collapse from underneath him, catch everyone he cares about in the wreckage. So let's say we give the house of cards a little shove. Based on my understanding and also vague memory of when June wants the story to actually get going in world, our tale begins maybe 1 to 2 years before that point. Colby, our guy, is once again rejected by Apollo and unable to get himself a prism of his own. This is maybe the 3rd or 4th time this has happened, and so he's only growing angrier, actively making it harder for him to have a chance. So, Colby goes back to the only group of like-minded people in this city, and they decide it's time to escalate. Something that June mentioned about Apollo is that he rather quickly fell into a leadership role because he was basically the only one capable of reintroducing normalcy back to these people. And it was only because he was super smart and had a bunch of resources. But did he ask for any of the, responsibilities that come with being a community leader of this stage? Absolutely not. June has gone out of their way to say this, even mentioning that there are groups of people who don't like Apollo having as much power as he does. This, my friends, is the tightrope our story is going to walk. Human beings in our world can barely share a planet with each other and get along somewhat smoothly. Now imagine you limit a population to a single city, scarcer resources than they'd like, and one guy in power who essentially has the entire military and police force under his control. Because I will remind you, Apollo gets to decide who gets a prism. That is an insane amount of power for one dude to have in an area where nobody can leave. So, in my head, some people are going to radicalize. The group known as Blackout started off as nothing more than a bunch of anti-Apollo street thugs. Nothing but villain of the week fodder for our heroes, and even barely villain of the week. They terrorize Apollo's inventions, steal resources, but nothing a series of magically powered superhumans can deal with their eyes closed. That is, until Colby joined their ranks. I think an interesting way of writing a villain, or at least figuring out what they can do, is thinking of how they could have been useful to the heroes. So, I made Colby a natural genius. In one of their rare successes, Blackout actually managed to get their hands on some broken Radiance tech, though it was basically useless now. But Colby, using what little he knew, what little he could find out, managed to actually reverse engineer some, albeit risky and incredibly unstable Radiance manipulation through this broken tech, meaning Blackout was now armed. I've always had a soft spot for the times in fiction when the joke or overlooked villains become genuine threats for a while, so I figured I'd do the same for what are essentially Prism's version of putty soldiers. I could even imagine if this becomes a show, for the first season, they're nothing more than background characters, essentially set dressing for an opening action scene for an episode. Only for then, at the end of season 1 or maybe early season 2, they start showing up with prism weapons and they start actually putting belt to ass a little bit. I just think that it would be really cool and a big shake up to the status quo. So, Blackout instantly becomes a bigger threat after this, and actually manages to take on some of the weaker Prism users, or at least stall until they can make off with what they needed. But even then, it wasn't enough. They could hold their own, sure, but nothing they did was ever big enough to actually challenge Apollo's position of authority. Even with their Radiance weaponry, most semi-capable Prism soldiers could take them out in droves, let alone people like Neneko. So, they do what only humans can do. They escalate. Blackout uses some faulty radiance tech to cause an explosion in the city, and while the PRISM soldiers are out handling the situation, a few Blackout members, Colby included, raid Apollo's house and headquarters. As PRISM soldiers begin to return to their headquarters en masse, realizing they'd been tricked, Colby managed to get the deepest into the facility out of anyone, and it's here that he saw something that nobody was meant to. Alla, one of Apollo's daughters, having been told by her father not to worry and to keep doing what she was doing to distract herself, made a prism. Colby's world instantly crashed down around him as he realized all the power he thought Apollo had was a lie, and worse than that, he believed it. But simply knowing this wasn't enough, as usual, Colby needed closure. He needed more. So he went to attack Alla in what men like him call retribution. Fortunately though, the girl's two older sisters, Ilaria and Felicity, were also in the room, so they used their own powers against Colby, causing a chain reaction with his, again, unstable radiance tech that blasted him out of the building in a massive explosion. It's here, on a rainy day like any other, because yeah, water is actually able to pass through the dome. With his gang almost entirely dismantled and body mangled in a back alley, Colby's heart stops. Meaning, yeah, in this version of events, these three girls have caught at least one mutual body before hitting puberty. And honestly, that's so real of them. So, before we continue, I think it's important I detail something about Apollo's daughters. And it's the fact they're essentially demigods. Apollo's dead wife, told you we'd get back to her, Cynthia, was basically a goddess of solid radiance. She had two children, Ilaria and Felicity, with Ben, a being of pure liquid radiance, and of course she had Alla with Apollo, though Apollo is human so he doesn't really factor into any of this. But that basically means these girls are three parts of a god. So, again, please bear with me because this is some total fell into a super collider, fell into a vat of electric eels bullshit. But the girl's powers coming into contact with Colby's faulty weaponry caused the explosion to not only kill him, but also mutate his corpse. And totally unrelated, but one of my favorite tropes in fiction is anti-magic, or a character basically having anti-whatever of their respective power system, like Asta from Black Clover. And I think you know where this is going. Colby's corpse is reanimated not by an insane surge of power, but by a hunger so visceral that his body would not let him die until it was satiated. A hunger for radiance. And this is where the video gets loose. For the remainder of this video, I'll basically be going over Colby's abilities in his mutated state, as well as what role I think he'd play in the narrative. Like I said before, Colby is going to be one of many shakeups to Apollo's House of Lies, and possibly something that leads to more of his secrets getting out against his will. So I refuse to believe that Apollo isn't smart enough to actually figure out Colby's situation out by just seeing him, and that in turn begs the question of what he's going to do about him. There are a few ways I can see this happening, but what I think would be cool is Apollo attempting to psyop everyone into thinking there was just a humanoid crystal monster here this whole time, or that he's simply an offshoot of the absence, because what is one more secret? I can even see like a subplot of Apollo and Ben working together to come up with a way of killing Colby for good under everybody's noses before they can try and figure out anything of what happened. And with Blackout almost entirely dismantled on top of the fact that Colby's corpse is still rapidly mutating, Apollo is gonna hedge his bets that our freakazoid here will essentially body horror himself out of any sense of familiarity to anyone before people start asking too many questions. I'm also of the belief that since Colby tried to get after his kids, Apollo has no remorse for anything that happens to him, hence actively trying to figure out a way to kill him. But every good monster-sized villain needs a name, and Apollo can't necessarily call him Colby without risking the chance of being found out, so from now on we'll be referring to Colby by his quote-unquote classification as the Stalker. Because I'm sure some of you are asking the very fair question that if Colby was just brought back from the dead, wouldn't he still know everything that's happened to him? And that's why I want to make this distinction. Colby died in that back alley. Stalker is his corpse reanimated by radiance with vague memories and feelings towards the people around him. And it's not like he could talk anyway. His mutation has left him completely non-verbal aside from things like grunts and laughing. It's like an animal. And if you want a more direct comparison, I've described Stalker's personality as closer to Kid Buu than anything else. He's sadistic, capable of cunning strategy, and overall is only really concerned with getting his next helping of that sweet, sweet radiance. A vast majority of Prism soldiers are usually themed in their costuming, allowing them to manipulate radiance in forming constructs and assorted abilities keeping with their theme. For example, Neneko being a jester and being able to make landing mats or throw bowling pins at people. Stalker, though, is going to separate himself from the mold here. The main selling point being his new ability to absorb radiance. The black crystalline part of Stalker's body acts as the conduit for this, allowing him to absorb radiance on contact. This also means he's pretty much the ultimate counter to Apollo's Prism fighters, seeing as long as it's his legs, arms, teeth, yes teeth, or his horns, he'll be able to rip through their light constructs like tissue paper and siphon all that power for himself. This comes with a funny little secondary ability where if he's making contact with it being a pure radiance like Ben can't shift into his liquid form. Something about Stalker keeps the other phases of radiance solid, making them unable to run away from him. Totally unrelated once again, but probably my second favorite ability in all of fiction is adaptation. Think your Doomsdays, your Maharagas, your Isagis. It's a big world out there and Stalker is well equipped to adapt and overcome, as any predator species needs to. I think he would start out as like a medium level threat, maybe like a medium high level threat. Sure, the crystal parts of his body allowing him to absorb radiance can be annoying, but it's not like he can't take damage or anything. If Neneko beams him in the chest with a bowling pin, he's still going to take that damage in full, because it's not the black crystals. And if All Might has taught us anything, absorption does not mean nullification. If Stalker is hit with enough radiance, he will simply explode, due to being unable to hold it all. Look, digestion takes time, okay? Just because he can absorb it doesn't mean he instantly galvanizes it. I'm not even sure if that's the right word, but still. But either way, I could see him starting out as a very Monster of the Week type of character, showing up around the dome and having to be dealt with while they slowly unravel the mystery of who or what he is. But no two fights with him are the same. Every time our heroes encounter Stalker, he not only seems to be stronger than the last time, but also have way more abilities. Along with the innate abilities of absorbing radiance, increased physical stats, and a crazy healing factor, he may spontaneously develop things like laser beams, radiance draining crystal constructs, teleportation, light clones, abilities specifically designed to counter Prism Fighter abilities, and more. And as time goes on, he's only going to continue evolving and adapting, becoming more and more of a threat the longer it takes our heroes to find a way to kill him. But as crazy as all this sounds and all this OP bullshit, I want to emphasize that Stalker is a force unto himself. He has no allegiance. He only cares about himself and his next meal. And for those who have seen June's videos, you know that the absence is either made of or powered by radiance. So Stalker has definitely been inadvertently helping our heroes by chowing down on the absence whenever he gets the chance. He'd also some days be working with the absence if he's been promised that he'll get a good helping of that Prism radiance. He can never truly be bargained with, only distracted for a time before he comes back to kill you. This is true for the villains as well. No one is safe. Though I don't want him to be unbeatable as well. Even though he has a healing factor, he can still be knocked out. It doesn't replenish his stamina, it just makes it so you can't really kill him with any physical damage. And also, using the stuff like the laser beams, the teleporting, it drains the radiance that he may have within him at any point. Fighting makes him hungrier, and his own body needs the radiance to both eat and soothe the immense pain his mutations cause him. Stalker is in a perpetual state of hunger, rage, and pain, and I can even see him going after the artificial sun in a season finale, or maybe even the dome. The dome is made of radiance after all. Maybe he eats his way out of it and disappears for a season, and comes back as some kind of fucking crystal kaiju that he's mutated into. I really want the sky to be the limit with this character, and for him to play a role of being an absolute wild card both sides need to play around. Maybe at some point he's betrayed by either the villains or the heroes who have enlisted his help, and so nighttime he shows up, it's to explicitly fuck over any plans they may have made. Where some characters may struggle with their own agency, Stalker is a character of extreme agency, and I'd like that to be consistent no matter what form he takes. With above all else, him acting like this looming threat over our heroes and villains who they may have to set their differences aside for a minute to actually defeat for good. I want him to interact with characters and push them not only along the power spectrum, but also along the character one. How do they react to the fact this thing is a walking corpse? How do they respond to the potential of having to team up with enemies just to survive? Does Stalker instill fear or trauma in them that they have to overcome? Like Apollo's daughters, I could totally see like an arc of them having to overcome their fear of like crystals or prisms in general, just because a Stalker fucked them over one time. This character is an evolving bulldozer of a storytelling tool in my eyes, and I'd like that to show. But that honestly wraps up everything I wanted to talk about today. So if you're still watching the video up to this point, thank you. It really means a lot, even if this is just my first upload. If this video does well, or if I just feel like it, I'd like to make a sequel video going over the possible super forms Sakura could evolve into throughout the series. Because let's be honest, if a villain in a Magical Girl series doesn't have a transformation, what are we even doing? I'd also like to try and stay within this sphere of original character creation in terms of going forward, whether that be original characters or just original content. I know that's what a lot of YouTubers want, but like, you'll see what I mean. I'm currently working on something right now, and what better way to stay in that lane than with D&D? I love D&D. I know WotC isn't great right now, but the greater community is what keeps me invited, and honestly, I just want to do that. A lot of YouTubers, from what I hear, think that you should just do what you want for YouTube and an audience will come to you. Let's hope that works. But currently, I'm working on a subclass based on a very popular species in media. So there's your hint. If you think that's cool, stick around. Why don't you? Drop a like and subscribe. I know the call to action is annoying to a lot of people, but from what I hear, it works. So, you know, I'd love to have you along for the ride. If you want to drop a like, subscribe, that'd be sick. And with that being said, with that long tangent over, please just have a good day.